The Principal Book of Won Buddhism. Doctrine. Chapter 4, The Threefold Study. Section 1, Cultivating the Spirit, Kongsan Suyang. A. The essential purport of cultivating the spirit. Spirit, Kongsan, means that state in which the mind, being clear and round, calm and tranquil, is free from a tendency toward discrimination and a penchant toward attachment. Cultivating, Suyang, means nourishing that spirit which is clear and round, calm and tranquil, by internally letting go of a tendency toward discrimination and a penchant toward attachment and externally not being enticed by distracting sensory conditions. Be the objective of cultivating the spirit. Sentient creatures instinctively have a congenital ability to know and a desire to do certain things. Humans, the most intelligent of beings, have, in their seeing, hearing, and learning, a tendency to know and a desire to do certain things that is many times greater than that of other animals. So, if they decide to seek out those things they know and want to do, then, while satisfying themselves through their own prerogatives, skills, and might, regardless of etiquette, shame, and just laws, they ultimately will destroy their families and ruin themselves. They may feel a pessimistic disgust toward the world, through their distress and idle thoughts and their wrath and anxiety. They may become weak of nerve, lose touch with reality, or, in the most extreme of cases, some might even commit suicide. Therefore, our aim is to engage in cultivation that nurtures our autonomous power by removing this desire that spreads its tendrils widely and attaining a sound spirit. See the consequences of cultivating the spirit. If we continue the work of cultivating the spirit for a long time, our spirit will become as solid as iron or stone, and, in applying ourselves to the myriad sensory conditions, autonomous power will arise in the mind, and ultimately we will gain the power of cultivation. Section 2, Inquiry into Human Affairs and Universal Principles, Sari Yangu. A. The essential purport of inquiry into human affairs and universal principles. Human affairs, SA, means the right and wrong, benefit and harm, among human beings. Universal principles, RI, means the great and small, being and non-being, of heavenly creation. Great means the original essence of all things in the universe. Small means that the myriad phenomena are distinguished by their shapes and forms. Being and non-being means the cycle of nature's four seasons of spring, summer, fall, and winter, as well as wind, clouds, rains, dew, frost, and snow, the birth, aging, sickness, and death of all things, and the transformations of creation and destruction, flourishing and decay. Inquiry, Yangu, means studying and mastering human affairs and universal principles. Be the objective of inquiry into human affairs and universal principles. This world is constructed through the principles of great and small, being and non-being, and is driven by the affairs of right and wrong, benefit and harm. Therefore, as the world is vast, there are infinite types of principles. As there are many people, there are limitless types of human affairs. However, the suffering and happiness that might inadvertently occur and the suffering and happiness that we create for ourselves are the consequences of our own making through the operation of the six sense organs. If we act whenever we please and stop whenever we please, ignorant of the right and wrong, benefit and harm, of our actions, then the activities of our six sense organs at every instant will turn into transgressions and suffering, so that our future will become a boundless sea of suffering. If we live ignorant of the principles of great and small, being and non-being, we will not understand the causes of the suffering and happiness that might inadvertently occur, our thoughts being myopic and precipitous, and our minds being biased and narrow. We will not understand the principles of birth, aging, illness, and death and the retribution and response of cause and effect. Unable to distinguish the factual and true from the false and spurious, we constantly would fall into falsity and wishful thinking, until ultimately we face the destruction of our families and the ruin of ourselves. Therefore, our aim is, by inquiring in advance into the unfathomable principles of heavenly creation and the multifarious affairs of humanity, to know them through clear analysis and quick adjudication when confronted by them in real life. See the consequences of inquiry into human affairs and universal principles. If we continue for a long time with the work of inquiry into human affairs and universal principles, we will generate the power of wisdom that knows without obstructions in analyzing and adjudicating the myriad human affairs and universal principles, and ultimately will gain the power of inquiry. Section 3, Choice in Action, Chagop Chwysa. A. The essential purport of choice in action. Action, Chagop, means the functioning of the six sense organs of eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind in whatever one does. Choice, Chwysa, means choosing what is right and forsaking what is wrong. B. The objective of choice in action. Even if we have gained the power of cultivation that comes from cultivating the spirit and the power of inquiry that comes from inquiry into human affairs and universal principles, cultivation and inquiry will come to naught and will hardly gain any real efficacy, if we cannot put them into practice in actual operations. This would be like a tree that has a good trunk, branches, flowers, and leaves, but that bears no fruit. As a rule, why is it that we human beings do not practice the good even while knowing the good and do not put an end to evil even while knowing the evil, so that we forsake the tranquil paradise and fall into the perilous sea of suffering? This is because we either are deficient in our practice due to our ignorance of what is right or wrong in actual situations, or because, even though we know what is right or wrong, we cannot control our desires, which flare up like a fire, or because we are enticed by habits that are solid like iron or stone, so that we do not put into practice our choice of the good and forsaking of the evil. Therefore, our aim is to work at putting into practice the choice of the right at all costs and the forsaking of the wrong at all costs, so that we may avoid the odious sea of suffering and welcome the yearned-for paradise. See the consequences of choice in action. If we continue for a long time with the work of choice in action, we will gain the power of putting into practice the valiant choice of the right and the valiant forsaking of the wrong in applying ourselves in any situation, and ultimately will gain the power of choice.